So you guys were I'm hearing a lot of you guys just wanted a theme song shortened, so here we go. This girl reviews movies, games, and books. Sometimes she plays them. So does that, and when she does it with the cat, does that make her crazy? Does that make her crazy? Probably. So, it's shorter. There you go. CrazyCatLady Gamer Reviewer or Martha Butler does not own any trailers or pictures. I use them under fair use, educational, for education and entertainment purpose. So, hi everybody, Martha here. So, a few days ago, since there's probably going to be no news tomorrow when I post this on Sunday, because it rarely ever is, I decided today we're going to review the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood movie. The one that has to be, that's about Fred Rogers. But really, so yeah, as usual, my movie reviews has spoilers in it. So this movie is about a guy wanting to get a interview with Fred Rogers and how it changes his life. His name is Tom Vogel, and it's he's supposed to like do a piece on like about people's heroes, and he goes to interview Fred Rogers. So yeah. So this movie takes place back in 1998, a couple years before he died, Fred Rogers dies. So what this movie is really about Tom about Tom more than Mr. Rogers, because Tom, yes, Mr. Rogers in it, but mostly Mr. Rogers is like being a narrator in it, and also being an inside character in the show and the story that he is telling us. Because the way this starts is it's like one of his episodes where he's explaining to his audience about how to approach forgiveness, because forgiveness is really hard to deal with, especially when the person who you're trying to forget has wronged you in the way that Tom has. Now, like before this all happened, Tom's sisters getting married, and their dad's at the wedding. They have an argument, and both of them end up hitting each other at the wedding, which is you don't start a fight at a wedding. So they don't really give you the contents of what the fight was about until later on in the movie, because you only think because the only reason why he is mad at his dad because he hit him. No, it's a lot deeper than that, because later on in the movie we find out that his mom died, and she was in hospital, and the dad was not there for the mom when she died, or for the kids after she died. Both of them, I'm gathering, they would probably had to go to a foster place, and yeah, dad was not really ever there for them afterwards, because he was having an affair with somebody, with another woman, while his wife was in the hospital. Now, I would understand why that would be really hard for the son of that guy to have a hard time forgiving his dad. I don't know if I would ever do that to if my dad ever did that to me. I don't think I would be able to forgive him. So I can totally understand what he's coming from, and he isn't really taught. He does not really tell Fred Rogers about the whole entire thing that happened with his Foley, his dad. He just noticed that Roger just noticed he got hit, and he during the interview, while he's interviewing Fred Rogers about would he consider himself a hero. Fred Rogers says no, because he's not here. He's not trying to be somebody's hero. He's just trying to teach children's lessons about some things that a lot of people don't are really hard to deal with, because that he it for kids who were now around, like nowadays when Fred Rogers was around, he talked about divorce, assassination, murder. He talked about a lot of things that people think that kids should not have to talk about. But if a kid watches the news, then they would want to talk about this stuff. Because, well, let's give an example. Like, in the time that Fred Rogers was doing the show, there were assassinations, wars, and and parents getting divorced. And so he also wanted to talk about sadness and stuff like that, and be like a show that's a counselor for kids. And basically he helped, and he would talk to the kids and talk to them and help them get through some problems by talking through the TV show. But he would not talk down to people. He would just treat kids like adults. He would not tell them that they're stupid or anything like that, because he knew that you can't do that. And so he did not aim to be famous. He just aimed to set out a good example. And he thinks that fame is like a 4-letter word, which it is. So it's kind of like he would be saying it was a cuss word or something like that. So yeah. So during this interview, he is talking to both him and Tom are talking about him being a hero to liberation, and instead of who's being interviewed here, it's more like Mr. Rogers is interviewing Tom, because he kept asking him what happened to your nose, and he keeps on trying to avoid the thing, because it's supposed to be him that's interviewing Mr. Rogers, not the other way around, so he can say, I'm supposed to be asking the questions here. So they only had like 20 minutes to do this interview, and they didn't get to finish it because he kept on asking what happened to your face. And he eventually did say that his dad hit him, and he wants to know why your dad hit him, and they kind of got interrupted, so they would have to reschedule this thing. And basically, yeah, so this whole entire movie is about him trying to get an interview from Fred Rogers, and yet it doesn't get interrupted. And also it's about him dealing with the fact that he needs to forgive his dad before his dad dies, because his dad's going to die soon. And you don't want to have your dad die, and the fact that you don't forgive him, because you can't go to the guy's grave and say I forgive you, because then the dad does not die knowing that everything is settled. So yeah. And so I believe, yeah, that they did that he did end up forgiving his dad eventually before he died, because he did die in this movie. So yeah, and Fred Rogers mostly helps Tom get through this. And mostly what I like about this if you watched Mr. Rogers, you know how it opened. It would open on a board with a bunch of houses on it, and like a little bitty houses. Like if you see in Beetlejuice, you know what I mean. That little bitty board that has a bunch of houses on it in Beetlejuice. It's kind of like that. So yeah, and they would have like little puppets moving around and stuff like that. So that's how the show usually opened up before we go into Fred Rogers' house. So mostly in this movie, that's how every time we go outside, we would see we're on that board, and we're like seeing a bunch of little houses. Since this does place in New York, they have a lot of they have New York on a board basically every time we're outside, almost. Like before we go to the next part, that's how we always see it, and I loved it. It was cool. And we also got to see Daniel, the little line puppet, Mr. Rogers, and see him get to see how it worked, that he when he's doing Daniel in that part of the segment of the show, he was like bent down over and started doing the puppets show. So yeah, and while they're talking about one of their stuff. So yeah, I mean, as far as I know, PBS doesn't have him on the show, have any of his shows anymore. I don't know why. I would love it to, because these kids nowadays need someone like Mr. Rogers teaching them lessons. Sadly, he's not around anymore to do that. So I wish there was that some. I know Sesame Street's on the show still, but they didn't. They don't um, tackle the same exact things that he did. They don't talk about. They talk about death, but they don't talk about like um, the bad things, like assassination and murder. They don't address the news that's going on in the world today. But Mr. Rogers did, and he helped kids deal with that. So yeah, it's just sad that my generation, the millennials, because people always get millennials and Generation Z's mixed up. People who are millennials are people who are in their late 20s and their early 30s now, while Generation Z's are people who are like, I would say 25 and below. So yeah, and those people who are 25 and below, 24 and below, are not gonna not know not gonna have, unless their parents does a great job helping them explain this kind of stuff, because of stuff like what happened to John Lennon keep happening, which they do, sadly, and it would be a lot help if they have a kid has help learning that, like the whole thing that happened with you know who, and you know what. I don't really want to say it because I don't want nobody to get mad at me, because I try my best not to bring up politics in my videos, but that's all I'm gonna say about that. So yeah, because I don't want a dumb war going down in the comments section about something. So this movie is really good. I loved it, and I don't know how much it is based on fact. I just know it's based off a true story, but I don't know how much of it is actually true. So yeah, and I liked my favorite scene in this movie was when Mr. Rogers and Tom were inside a subway, and a bunch of kids and adults started singing "Won't She Be My Neighbor" theme song to Mr. Rogers. And I kind of joined in when they did this. So yeah, it was cool. That part was pretty cool. So yeah, this movie was pretty cool. So for people who my age and older who grew up with Mr. Rogers when he was alive, and maybe you want to introduce your kids to him for this way, and then go and find out the other the documentary that I have. Go find that movie too. And so we're gonna give this movie a 10 out of 10. So also, um, yes, this movie does address the entire thing with him being about the dumb urban legend about him being a sniper shooter. He's not a sniper shooter. He does not have tattoos on his arms. That's not why he doesn't wear sweat. That's not why he wears sweaters. He likes sweaters. Why is it so bad for a guy to like sweaters? Oh, he has to have tattoos. So yeah. So here's Sully. Let's ask him. What do you think about Sully? I liked it. You liked it? Yeah, even though I slept most of it. Yeah. So you like Daniel? He's a good lion. Yep. So, say bye-bye, Sully. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, guys. Like, favorite, subscribe.